hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what doing things in the right order is worth in Australia. Two mates, Dan and Priya, same job, same pay, same $1,000 a month they're each trying to invest. But 30 years later, Priya retires hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead of Dan. Same money in, every month, for 30 years. And here's the kicker. Dan actually tried harder. He spent years agonizing over which investment, which ETF, which fund is now the right time. Priya barely thought about that. She just did things in the right order. That was the whole difference. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. Building wealth in Australia was never about picking the perfect investment, it's about doing a handful of boring steps in the right sequence. Get the order right, and average investments make you wealthy. Get it wrong, and the best ETF in the country can't save you. Picture Dan for a second. He's on his phone, topping up his share app, feeling clever, while a credit card sits in the background quietly charging him around 20%. He's pouring water into a bucket that's full of holes. And he has no idea, because he started on the wrong rung. So I'm going to give you the whole ladder, 7 steps, in the exact order most Australians can think through. From your very next $1,000 to a portfolio that runs itself. And there's one rung on this ladder sitting right in the middle that's pure free money the government will hand you every year for doing almost nothing. Most Australians walk straight past it their entire lives. I'll show you exactly where it sits. This isn't about being a genius, it's about being in order. Let's climb. Think of it like building a house. Nobody puts the roof on before the foundation. It'd be insane. But with money, people do it constantly. They're buying shares before they've got a cent of breathing room. Or while a 20% credit card eats them alive. Roof first, foundation never. So, we start at the bottom. Step 1, your emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses, sitting in an offset account or a high-interest savings account where you can reach it fast. That's it. It's not exciting, and that's the point. This is the concrete slab everything else stands on. Because without it, the first flat tire or vet bill puts you straight back onto that 20% credit card and you're back to square one. And before you skip this one, most Australians genuinely cannot. 1 in 3 of us couldn't cover a surprise $1,000 bill without borrowing for it. If that's you, you're not behind. You're just on step 1, which is exactly where everyone starts. Now, here's the step that comes before any investing at all, and it's the one that quietly makes or breaks people. Step 2, kill your high-interest debt. Credit cards, buy now, pay later, personal and car loans. A credit card charging you around 20% isn't a bill. It's the thief of this whole story. Here's why. The share market has historically returned around 7 to 8% a year. So, paying off a 20% debt is a guaranteed 20% return. Risk-free, tax-free, instant. There is no investment in this country that reliably beats that. Paying off that card is the best investment you'll make this year. Quick one before we go any further. Everything here is general information only, not personal financial advice. This order is the general framework most Australians can think through, but where you are on it depends on your situation. So for your own, talk to a licensed advisor. One catch though, and it's important. Your HEX or HELP debt is not in this category. It's indexed to inflation, not a brutal 20%, so it's one of the cheapest debts you'll ever hold. Don't rush to throw money at HELP debt while a real 20% credit card is still breathing. Cheapest debt last, most expensive debt first. Foundations poured. Now we climb into the part of the ladder where the government literally pays you to step up. Remember that free money rung I promised you at the start? This is it. Step 3. Grab the free super money before anything else. 2 things hide here that most people never claim. First, if you earn under a certain income and you pop a bit of your own money into super, the government chips in too. It's called the co-contribution, and it's worth up to $500 a year. Every year. Free. And don't shrug at $500, drop that into super in your 20s and 30s and let it compound. And a handful of free $500 quietly turns into real money by the time you retire. Second, make sure you're actually getting your full 12% super guarantee from your employer, because underpayment is more common than you'd think. This is the closest thing to free money in the entire system, and people leave it sitting there for 40 years because nobody told them the rung existed. Picture Mel, 38. Pax orders at a warehouse out in Western Sydney. Always reckoned super was a worry about it later thing. Then, one smoko, a mate turned his phone round and showed her the co-contribution. She put in a bit of her own. The government topped it up, and she's pocketed that free $500 every single year since. She didn't change jobs, she didn't earn a cent more, she just finally noticed a rung that had been sitting there the whole time. Now, here's where the real tax magic starts. Step 4. Salary sacrifice extra money into super up to the concessional cap. Here's the trick. Money you put into super this way is taxed at just 15% for most people. But the same dollar in your normal pay could be taxed as high as 47%. So for a lot of Australians, every dollar you redirect into super instantly saves you 20 or 30 cents in tax. And that saving stays invested and compounds for decades. Now you might be thinking, what's the limit? It's $32,500 a year. And here's the part that matters. That figure already includes the 12% your employer is putting in for you. So for most people, there's still real room underneath it to add your own. And that gap is some of the cheapest tax you'll ever buy back. And that 15% rate is exactly why you fund super before the mortgage and well before regular share investing. It's the most tax-efficient place your long-term money can grow in this country. There's one honest catch, and it's a real one. Super is locked until you're around 60. So, this rung is for your long-term, can't-touch-it money, not the cash you'll need next year, which is exactly why it's not the last step. Stay with me, because the final rung is the one that fixes the lock. The next two rungs barely exist overseas. They're some of the most powerful moves available, and they're almost uniquely Australian. Step 5. If you're saving for your first home, there's the First Home Super Saver Scheme. You put extra money into super, where it's taxed at that low 15% rate instead of your full marginal rate, let it grow, and then pull it back out for your house deposit, up to $50,000 of your own extra contributions. And $50,000 isn't pocket change on a deposit. That's a serious slab of the way to the front door, built faster because the taxman took a smaller bite on the way in. You're borrowing super's tax break to build your deposit faster. If a first home is the goal, this rung jumps the queue. Now, this next one is the most underrated step on the whole ladder. Step 6. Your mortgage. Once the free money and the tax breaks are handled, putting extra into your offset account or straight onto the loan is one of the smartest moves there is. If your mortgage rate is around 6%, then every dollar in your offset is earning you a guaranteed 6%. After tax, risk-free. Think about that. A guaranteed tax-free 6% with zero risk would be a brilliant investment on its own. And it's just sitting there inside your home loan. This is the rung that lets people sleep at night. Shares go up and down. Paying down your own home only ever goes one direction. And the feeling of owing less is something no spreadsheet fully captures. And finally, the top of the ladder. The step everyone wants to start with, that actually belongs last. Step 7. Index ETFs in your own brokerage account. A low-cost fund that just tracks the whole market, banks, miners, supermarkets, all of it, in one go. This is where your money goes once the foundation's built, the free money's claimed, the tax breaks are used, and the mortgage is handled. But here's the part that flips everyone's instinct. If super is so tax-friendly, why isn't it the last and biggest step? One word: access. Super is locked until 60. Your brokerage account is not. This is your bridge. The money you can actually reach at 40 or 45 or 50 for an early finish, a career change, a year off. And because it holds Australian shares, you often get franking credits, tax the company already paid for you, which softens the tax drag. Full flexibility, decent tax treatment, reachable anytime. That's why it's the top rung, not the first. Most Australians have this exact ladder upside down. They start here at step 7, while steps 1 through 6 sit untouched. If that's been you, you're not dumb. You were just never handed the order. Now you have it. So let's stand back and look at the whole thing. Emergency fund. Kill the dear debt. Grab the free super money. Salary sacrifice to the cap. First home super saver if you need it. Offset the mortgage. Then index ETFs. 1 through 7. Same income, same dollars, but climbed in that order, average becomes wealthy. Now picture Dan from the very start, topping up his share app with a 20% card bleeding behind him. Run that forward 10 years. He picked decent investments the whole time, but he started on rung 7 and never built rungs 1 through 6. The card interest quietly ate most of his gains. He left the government's free $500 sitting there for a decade. He paid full marginal tax on money that could have gone into super at 15%. Dan didn't pick bad investments. He just climbed the ladder upside down, and it cost him a small fortune he'll never see. Priya? She started at the bottom and climbed in order. Same money, a completely different life. That's the whole danger here. It was never the investment. It was the order. So, back to Dan and Priya. Same job, same pay, same $1,000 a month. The only thing that put Priya hundreds of thousands ahead was the order she climbed in. That's it. So, if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. You don't need to pick the perfect investment. You need to do the simple things in the right order. Foundation, free money, tax breaks, mortgage, then shares. Get the sequence right and ordinary decisions quietly make you wealthy. And your one concrete step this week, just find your own rung. Be honest about where you actually are on this ladder and take the next step up. That's the whole game. Subscribe if you want more of this. We pull Australian money apart, simply every week. And if you know someone climbing this ladder upside down, pouring money into shares with a credit card screaming behind them, send them this video. It might be the most valuable 9 minutes they watch this year. Have a good one, mate.